Do you know the new tax assessor?
You got roll call.
Yeah, he was sitting in the back.
But the thing is, you know him because nobody
Your
introduced
name
these
is-
guys.
I don't know. I don't know.
It's ridiculous.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Newark Municipal Council special meeting and a pre-meeting. Mr. President, for this special meeting in accordance with the New Jersey Open Public Meetings Act, adequate notice has been provided to the Star-Ledger, the Jersey Journal, and to the public at large establishing the date, time, and location of this meeting. May I have a roll call of those present, please?
Amador,
Here.
Gonzalez,
Here.
James,
Present.
absent, McIver,
Present.
Osborne,
Present.
Ramos,
Here.
Trump absent, President Zia.
Yes.
Mr. President, on the special agenda, Resolution 7R4A is a authorizing resolution for the Department of Finance expressing intent to finance Phase 1 of the lead service line replacement program by local improvement assessment. This would implement a special assessment for the lead service line replacement program.
Any questions? No questions? Continue.
Council of the Whole?
Yes.
Amador,
Yes.
Gonzalez,
Yes.
Yes.
absent, McIver,
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
On communications, 8A is an ordinance of the City of Newark and the County of Essex, New Jersey, directing the special assessment of the cost for Phase 1 of the lead service line replacement program. We have a request from the Finance Department to advance and adopt on first. This would be ordinance 6FA on the agenda.
Councilman Gonzalez?
Mr. President, I just wanted to know if this is, the special assessment here indicates that the people that have, let's say, service are going to be paying extra to the city for the water.
Someone's coming.
Good morning, Benjamin Guzman, Department of Finance. This special assessment ordinance is the mechanism by which the city is going to use that any homeowner that opts in to have the city replace their lead service line, that they will only be charged up to a maximum of $1,000. And the method by which we will then charge it to the homeowner
It's a
is
special
via the
assessment.
special assessment. Right now, we're predicting that it's going to be anywhere under $1,000. Most likely, it will be less than $1,000 per homeowner.
Thank you.
Any other concerns? Council Ramos?
This question is really not for the finance office, but I just would like an update as to how many property owners have applied thus far to be part of this particular lead replacement program. You know, how many applications have been filed year to date, and secondly, what's been the commitment from the state as far as funding to offset the costs of this program, and is the state funding the only funding that the city is going to be utilizing in order to subsidize the replacement of these lead service lines, or is there some other funding that may be available through the city, through old bonds, to accomplish this purpose? So first question is how many applications have been filed, and then the second question is what are the commitments as far as sources of funding for the subsidy?
I do know that for this particular phase, there are 1,500 properties, and we do have some individuals from the Water and Sewer Department and from the VA's office. They can probably give you more detailed information as to that, and as to the additional fundings that I do. There are some DEP funds, and there is some bonds, water sewer bonds that the city has already been authorized to be able to sell in the future.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Clerk has noted Councilman Ramos' questions. And we can get a response on it, right, Councilman? You want a written?
Well, if they have any information now, that'd be helpful, and if there's some info that they need to come back to the council on, it's fine.
Okay.
And it's not going to affect my support of this. I just curious to see how many applications have been filed and what are the sources that we're looking to use, at least currently, for the subsidy.
Councilman Amador?
I just have a very simple question. We did some testing throughout the entire city, and we found out that some areas have lead. How is this process started? Because there were some areas in the East Ward, either we like it or not, that have lead in the water, and because they were marked with red spots. how is the process started? Do we initiate the process, or is the homeowner calling first to find out if there's lead in the water through a test, and then subsequently be involved in the program?
Natasha Rogers, Chief Operating Officer for the city. I'll start with Councilman Amador's question first, and then Councilman Ramos. The qualifier for the lead service line replacement program is if you have a lead service line. That is the only qualifier. It has nothing to do with what the elevation levels of lead are in your drinking water. So that is the qualifier. So that's what starts the process, and that's what finishes the process. With regards to funding and applications, approximately 3,000 households applied for the lead service line replacement so far. This is an ongoing program. 1,500 applicants qualified. Qualification means that you have to have a lead service line, and that those folks will be included in the first phase. As a result of council approving this matter before them, this starts our public notice process, and before the first quarter is over, shovels will be in the ground, starting the replacement process. With regards to funding, the State Infrastructure Bank has a reimbursement program of up to 90% of the implementation or the replacement cost. Before this process started, that policy was up to $1 million per project. Through the advocacy of the mayor and the governor, that program was changed to $10 million. So we have $9 million of reimbursement funds to be used for this lead service line project in the city of Newark. The bond that was issued is basically our reserve. It's the upfront money that we use. The bond proceeds are the upfront money that we use to do the project, and then we will be reimbursed by the infrastructure bank.
Do we know what the estimated cost is for the replacement of the initial 1,500?
Per household is up to $6,000 to $8,000. So the total cost would be 10.2 million.
Okay, so the amount of money available through the state program, at least initially, is enough to help offset the subsidy?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. So we're going to move to first, you said?
Council of the whole to advance and adopt on first reading as 6FA.
Amador,
Yes.
Gonzalez,
Yes.
Yes.
Allen absent, Guyver,
Yes.
Osborne,
Yes.
Yes.
absent, President Quintana.
Yes.
Mr. President, the ordinance adopted on first reading today will be advertised in accordance with law, and a public hearing will be held at the public council meeting of February 20th, beginning at 6:30 p.m. here in the council chamber. Council of the whole to adjourn the voting portion of this meeting?
Amador,
Yes.
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 Allen absent, MacGyver,
Yes.
Yes.
Ramos,
Yes.
absent, President Quintana.
Yes, to adjourn.
President, we are now in the pre-meeting. I'd like to begin by doing the interviews for appointments. Is Michael DiCaprio in the chamber?
He's here.
We're on page 22.
Yeah, Michael.
Morning, everyone.
Please state your name and address for the record.
Michael DiCapua, 321 Walnut Street, Newark.
You have been nominated by the mayor for an appointment as a Class 4 member of the Central Planning Board. Do you have a statement that you wish to make to the council before they begin their questions?
Merely that I welcome and I'm grateful for the opportunity to serve on the board.
Council.
Councilman Amador.
I'd like to sponsor Mr. DiCapua.
I'll second.
Hey, thank you. Thank you for your
Thank you.
I just want to say that I read the qualifications of Mr. De Capua, and I am really impressed with your qualifications, and thank you for your willingness to serve the city of Newark.
Well, the resume is a product of longevity, you know.
I only recommend good people.
He's sworn.
Thank you, everyone.
He's sworn.
Yeah, once in a while.
Continue, Mr. Clerk.
Is Marquise Aquil Lewis in the chamber?
Yes.
He was here.
There he is.
Please state your name and address for the record.
Marquise Shaquille Lewis, 33 Vaughn Drive, Newark, New Jersey.
You have been nominated by the mayor for an appointment to the Newark Parking Authority. Do you have a statement that you wish to make to the council before they begin their questions?
I'd just like to say that this is a unique opportunity, being a former employee of the Parking Authority, being one of the original officers of the Parking Authority, knowing the ins and the outs of the organization, walking the streets. I just think that this is a terrific opportunity to have a board member that actually knows the ins and the outs of the operation and knows what our officers and our collectors face every day on the streets as they collect and as they enforce parking across the city.
Sponsor.
Second.
Congratulations.
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 They need a priest there.
Mr. President,
Yes.
yeah, could I get a status on the terms of the existing planning board members? Because I believe the only representative that we had from the North Ward was replaced by, highly qualified candidate that came before us today, but just want to see whose terms have expired on the board and whether or not there's an opportunity to ensure that our ward has representation as well on the Central Planning Board.
As noted, and I think every ward should have some kind of representation. I mean, there's 5 wards and there's 9 commissioners, so it should be
Thank you, Mr. President.
the reflection of the wards.
Della M. Walker, Jr.
Appearing.
Good morning.
Good
Please
morning.
state your name and address for the record.
Della M. Walker Jr., 999 Broad Street, Unit 215, Newark, New Jersey, 07102.
You have been nominated by the mayor for an appointment to the LGBTQ Advisory Commission. Do you have a statement that you wish to make to the council before they begin their questions?
Yes, I am honored to be a part of the LGBTQ Commission to move the needs of the LGBT community in Newark forward. We have really waited for some time to present issues before the council to meet the needs of the community here in Newark, and I'm honored to be a part of that movement.
Any questions? Thank you for your service.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Continue, Mr. Clerk.
Danielle Martin.
I'm not appearing.
Ronnie Carney.
Appearing.
Good morning.
Please state your name and address for the record.
Ronnie D. Carney, 16 Grange Street, Newark, New Jersey, 071.
You have been nominated by the mayor for an appointment to the LGBTQ Advisory Commission. Do you have a statement that you wish to make to the council before they begin their questions?
I'd just like to say that I'm honored as a 21-year educator in the city of Newark to actually be a part of the commission so that we can forward the needs of the LGBT community in the city of Newark.
Any questions?
Congratulations.
Thank you. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Continue, Mr. Clerk.
Perry Halkitis, are you in the chamber?
Appearing.
Please state your name and address for the record.
Perry Halkitis, 205 Easton Avenue, New Brunswick, New Jersey, 08901.
You have been nominated by the mayor for an appointment to the LGBTQ Advisory Commission. Do you have a statement that you wish to make to the council before
Yes.
they begin their questions?
Yes, thank you. So first of all, I'm honored to be here with you this morning. For 25 years or so, I've been an advocate, an educator, a researcher, and a scholar for the LGBTQ population, primarily in New York. But in the last year and a half, I've brought my life to New Jersey as the Dean of the School of Public Health at Rutgers. I look forward to marrying the efforts of our university with the efforts of the LGBTQ population here in Newark to advance the well-being of the population in every regard, emotionally, physically, and socially.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Next.
Thank you. Do we need to do Dr. Wade?
Dr. Wade, I don't know, what is pleasure of the council? I mean, we said that he's an ex officio, right? Is that?
That's my contention.
So, I mean, he's a department head, so he should, it should be, that opportunity should be given to someone else. And he should sit in as just, and give an opportunity to someone else that may be a part of that committee. And he should oversee what happens and what the needs are and the assessments of the commission. I mean, that's just my only concern. So, well, I don't know what everyone else agrees, but that's why he's not here. So,
Mr. President,
yes, Councilman.
I'm not going to specifically talk about Dr. Wade being appointed to this commission. Again, he's an ex-officio, should be an official of the commission. My position regarding this commission hasn't changed one bit. The problem exists, the majority of the problem exists in the East Ward in terms of homelessness. And I fail to understand that there's no one from the East Ward recommended to this commission. So therefore, I will abstain on every recommendation that will be submitted regarding this commission.
All right?
Yeah, Mr. President.
Yes, Councilman Ramos.
I would just ask through your chair that the BA, I know that the city is utilizing CDBG funding in the interim to fund the housing program, temporary housing program. And I would just ask the BA to look into the fact that I believe that once you utilize CDBG federal funds, that anyone throughout the country is eligible to receive those services, that there cannot be a restriction geographically based on the fact that you are using federal CDBG funds.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay.
Mr. President, that concludes the interviews, but before we move on, I would like to bring Ms. Gonzalez from Public Service forward. Ms. Gonzalez is the liaison with the council from the Public Service. Ms. Gonzalez, would you introduce yourself?
Good morning. Michelle Gonzalez, Public Affairs Manager for the City of Newark, working with all the elected officials. I'd like to provide an update on two items that the City Council had referred to PSC&G, one being substation maintenance and cleanliness and also security, and also the lighting needs of the city going forward with the LED replacement. With the first one on the substations, I want to note that we now have all 22 stations in the City of Newark that will be checked twice a month and cleaned appropriately, so you shouldn't see any more complaints regarding the cleanliness of the substations in the community. Additionally, there were two specific stations that we were looking at security. One in the South Ward on 15th Street, we're looking to increase lighting there, as well as the one on Federal Square on Camp Street. Seems like there's a lot of activity there, and we'll be increasing the lighting there as well. Any questions on the substation update? Okay. The second item is I think, a pretty good story. We have an effort underway for the City of Newark where we will replace, for the most part, the majority of all lights that are technically identified as high-pressure sodium with LED. City has about 22,000 lights. There's going to be 3 tranches of work that will be initiated. The first one will start this month in February. We will start in the South Ward, replacing all these 400-watt lights to LEDs, to the equivalent LED, which will make the area brighter. And where there's concerns of dark spots, we will add lighting. We're working closely with the Traffic and Signals Department, and we're in agreement of the overall approach to the city lighting. So there's about 2,200 lights that will start to be worked on slowly, about 30 a week we're trying to hit, about 30 a week and maybe more depending on resources. But that will start in the South Ward, especially with the information we see from the police department of the police activity that's going on there. From that approach on starting the South Ward, we'll work towards the West Ward and then the Central Ward and so forth. That's the first tranche of work. The second tranche of work, we're working with Newark Downtown District They're looking to replace and add about 600 fixtures from Clay Street, I think all the way up to Kinney Street, and we're working with them to establish the work plan around that sometime later this year. But there's about 600 lights that will go from regular high-pressure sodium to LED, so all the way from Clay Street on Broad Street, all the way up to Kinney. That's the second tranche of work. The third tranche of work will be around our rate case filing, where we had asked for improved pricing for LEDs for the remaining lights in the city, which we call Cobra heads. Those are the metal lights that come on the wood poles and all the aluminum poles. There's about 19,000 of them. And we're looking to start that work later this year. We're finalizing the plans. And the City of Newark will be, this will be a statewide effort. The City of Newark will be first on the list to get done. And that's three separate tranches of work with three separate, different sets of resources. So none of them would affect the other tranches. So in essence, the city is going to have all their lights replaced to to LEDs.
How long would it take?
That work plan is being worked out, but it could take a few months for the, as far as the third work, with the third tranche, it takes about a few months. Because it's a Board of Public Utilities approval, we have a set deadline that will be given to us that we have to be done statewide. So City of Newark will be first, so we expect that to be done relatively quickly. I'll provide another update as I get more firm information on the work plan for the NDD and the rate filing, because that will be significant to know the timing of that. So we just ask that the City Council be aware, remind your constituents that PSC&G does have a strategy and a plan. We're working with our lighting, our traffic and signals folks, and also the Newark Downtown District. But as you have other needs, bring them to my attention, but that's the overall strategy. So the effort is, we're trying to get the whole city lit up with LEDs, starting this year.
Thank you. Thank you. Any questions? Any other questions? I just want to take this opportunity to thank you, because personally I've called you on numerous occasions and you have always been responsive. So I just want to say thank you for always, even on a weekend, calling you and getting a response. That means a lot. When I call and say there's a constituency problem, or there's an area where they're working and it's affecting a business, and you have gone to that business and you have worked with PSC&G, the staff, and also or with the private or with the contractor and the persons from that community. To me, that means it says a lot of what your work ethic is. And I just want to say thank you for always picking up the phone and responding and immediately taking it as a responsibility. I just want to thank you for that.
Thank you, Councilman. Appreciate it.
Yes, Councilman Ramos.
I too want to take this opportunity to say thank you to Michelle. We've had a few partnership initiatives we've worked on. One has been an opportunity for her to dialogue with some of our clergy representatives regarding some incentive programs that PSC&G has. She's also worked with my office on individual PSC&G complaints, especially during some of these very cold days that we've experienced over the last month, and we recognize that PSC&G has done some infrastructure improvements to deal with some of the outages that we've had in the past, and sometimes that requires them to take down, some trees, and they're installing these super tall poles that in some instances create some concern on behalf of the community, and she's been very open and accessible to reaching out to these homeowners and residents to educate them on the process, and also ensuring us that there is a tree replacement program in place that kind of mirrors the communities where the projects are taking place. So I just want to say thank you as well, Michelle.
Thank you, Councilman. Appreciate it.
Amador?
Yeah. Two things. I make mine the words of the council president in terms of your availability and your response to some of the questions and some of the needs of the residents of the East Ward. You forgot to mention one thing that we're working together on, which is the substation. And I think the dialogue that we have going not only with my office, but also with the community, is an example of how things should be done. And I applaud you for that, including you're attempting to include the students at Eastside High School and the community meetings that we had in terms of the questions that have come up regarding the substation. One thing that I'd like to mention that is normally ignored, but once we have tragedy, it comes up, is there's a number of homes throughout the city of Newark that are either boarded up or just there's no one living in there for some reason. And one of the causes of the fires that affect not only that particular structure, but also that community around that building, is the fact that the gas is still on, and it's very dangerous. It's a very dangerous condition. So what I would suggest is that you, sometime in the future, identify those homes that are either boarded up, but they're not, the gas is not shut off, and let's make an effort to shut the gas off before another tragedy comes up, because normally we only mention these things when the problems come up, and we don't proact, we react. So my suggestion is that we identify which homes they are and shut the gas off from the street rather than let it go.
Yeah. Also, on another note, your partnership with the Newark Housing Authority, which I think it's great in terms of helping the Housing Authority with their situation. And you had a meeting with Mr. Carrillo, and I just want to thank you because you reached out to the community, but you also reached out to, as Councilman Ramos indicated, that you talked to with the churches, the clergy. I know you're working with some other churches in the area, but in terms of the Housing Authority, where our folks live, that's important to us too. The lighting, the heating situations, the weatherization for our folks in public housing, folks in Section 8. So I just want to thank you for that, your leadership and your direction on that. And I think we're going to, your next meeting, you should come and talk about that to us, about where we're at with the Housing Authority, and then with the schools, we have to do something with the schools too. Because if we could have some savings to the schools with the lighting around the schools and et cetera, that would be great.
Thank you, Councilman. I'll provide that update at the next opportunity. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you. Mr. Clerk?
Thank you, Ms. Gonzalez. Let's go to page 2 of the agenda. Are there any questions on the reports from the boards and commissions? Ordinance on first reading, 6FA, is the permit the short-term rental use in all legal dwellings and establish minimum standards for short-term rental use.
Council President.
Yes.
Is Mildred okay with this now?
Is Mildred okay with this? All right. Continue, Mr. Clerk.
B is it would add a new chapter 14 entitled Short-Term Rentals to Title 18 entitled Housing Code.
Any concerns? Continue.
C would add a transient accommodation short-term rentals to the list of properties subject to the license fee assessment, and amends the Schedule A to authorize the inclusion of transient accommodations as they become identified.
Questions? Continue.
D is a tax on for the hotel occupancy.
What is the pleasure of the council? Okay, continue.
These are all companions, all four. They're all connected.
All right. Rose.
E would amend Chapter 12 of the general ordinances for restaurants and retail sales and service establishments by adding Section 14 shared kitchen license and Section 15 shared kitchen user license.
Yeah. Mr. President, didn't we request someone to come in and explain this to us. I'm not sure if anyone's here from licensing. That was requested at the last meeting. I'm not sure if anyone followed up.
Okay. So you want to defer it and to...
I don't want to defer it, but I think
Juanita's here, I'm sorry.
we asked for someone to come in and just talk a little bit about what this is and why it's needed, that's all.
Oh.
Good morning. Juanita Jordan, Manager
Morning.
of Division of Tax Abatement and Special Taxes, Department of Finance. You would like an explanation of the shared kitchen? Yeah. The shared kitchen, the license was established because if there's a caterer that doesn't have a location to prepare their product and they would like a bigger kitchen, then they can go to a shared kitchen operator that is designated and has a license that says that he's a shared kitchen, and they can go as a shared kitchen user and prepare their goods there. So they have the location has to be licensed and the user has to be licensed.
Okay.
Also, there are requirements such as fire, health, trade waste. Because the shared kitchen is located in the building, they could have their own trade waste, their fire, and so therefore the shared kitchen user does not have to provide that as a process for receiving their license. They can use the shared kitchen operator's license because they're using their location. And the only other thing that the shared kitchen user would have to provide would be the health. So this ordinance would provide for that type of process.
Thank you. Are there any examples right now, Juanita, of shared kitchens, or this is something that may happen in the near future, or anyone's interested in potentially opening one up in Newark?
Well, we had Pilot Works, and they were located at 550 Broad Street, and they had kitchens, and they were selling time to the user. And so we were going through the process, but we didn't have a specific license for a shared kitchen and a shared kitchen user. So this was to accommodate that type of process.
So we're legislating this for one user, or do we anticipate more people getting into that kind of business?
It could be, yes. This is a general.
And how much are the licensing fees? I believe it's like $300 or something like that.
Yes, yes.
Can you tell us specifically how much it is?
I can't remember which one. I can't remember what the license fee is. I'm sorry, I apologize.
It's in the ordinance, right?
Yeah.
It's in the ordinance, yes. Yes.
Okay. I know, Councilman.
This is not related to this ordinance, but since I have the two of you here, and it's rare that the two of you are here together, one of and I talked to the BA about this, and I hope that we're working on this. Very often when we see a place closed down through the involvement of the AVC board because of selling of alcohol and illegal sale of alcohol, the fine is usually $300, and we see these places being opened the day after, or if not in the same day. And $300, when a bar or a restaurant it costs these folks $3,000 to renew the license every year, or $2,500, something like that. I don't think it's fair for us to charge only $300 to a place that sells alcohol illegally, that has been shut down by AVC or by the police department, and have an established place that does his business legally and having to pay $3,000 or close to $3,000 to renew the liquor license. So we need to take a look at the structure of these fines, because to shut down a place and force them on the first time to pay $300, anybody could pay $300. very often, and we had a case this week already, 2 establishments in the East Ward, they were selling alcohol illegally, they were shut down. One of them was open on the same day after they paid the $300. So it's very simple. So we need to take a look at the structure of those fines and increase them severely, because it doesn't make sense, thank you, it doesn't make sense that an establishment that has been in business for quite a long time, that pays between $25,000 and $3,000 a month, a year for the renewal of a license, to be in competition with someone who doesn't pay anything, gets fined for selling alcohol illegally, and open on the same day in most cases. So we need to take a look at the structure of those fines.
Councilman James?
And if not mistaken, Juanita, you don't have the total answer, but we also need to reach out to the police department, because when they come upon these illegal establishments, they're supposed to confiscate all the liquor also. So we'll check that piece out with the police department.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Continue, Mr. Clerk.
Ordinances on public hearing, second reading, and final passage. 6 PSNF-A is the purchase of the Shani Baraka Center.
Okay. No questions?
Sponsor.
Second.
Okay. Continue, Mr. Clerk.
B is the parking garage and office space to be constructed by the parking authority. We will be deferring action on this item tomorrow because we only did this for first reading at the special last week, and there is not enough time between the meetings, so this will come up on the agenda for the 20th.
But, Mr. President?
Yes.
Yes, I did the computation of the rent based on the numbers that are indicated here, 12,460 and 11,000 and change. And I come with different numbers, and perhaps we can have an explanation of why is it that the rent is, as I computed, is $24 million or $21 million, and as computed by in the agenda is $24 million. I would like to see what the difference is, because I believe that we are being charged for parking spaces at the same rate that we are being charged for office space. And if that's the case, I don't think that we should be paying $27 a square foot for a parking space that is going to be used by somebody else in the evenings, because we have use of that parking space only during the day. So if we are paying $27, there's somewhere someone is not, I believe, giving off credit for whatever revenue is going to be generated for the parkings in the evenings.
Good morning, Councilman Gonzalez. Eric Pennington, Business Administrator. We have requested the same information from the Parking Authority. I believe they are attempting to get information from their financial advisor, and they have not yet responded, but we agree that there's some analysis.
Yeah, we have some time between now and the next meeting to clarify it.
Right. We expect to get that information.
Mr. President?
Yes, Councilman.
Just mentioned that I believe there's a groundbreaking for this project today, which is...
It was.
They've changed the groundbreaking, but they are moving forward, though, Councilman.
Yeah, I thought it was unusual before the council actually votes on an agreement that they would have a groundbreaking.
Actually, I sent an email to the person that sent the invitation indicating that it was a kind of premature to have a groundbreaking when we haven't approved the project. They are assuming that the project is going to be approved, and that's not a certainty.
We have had similar discussions, council members.
Okay. All right. Continue.
Ask Public Service Works.
Resolutions. Resolution 7R1A is an exception to public bidding for agreement with a government entity. This is to formally strengthen and build capacity in the city to enhance the delivery of services to the local community.
Yeah. Any questions? No questions. Continue.
B is a temporary emergency appropriation for the WIC program.
Continue.
C is a temporary emergency appropriation for the Home Investment Partnership Program. D is a bid contract to provide work boots.
Continue.
C is a bid contract to provide water meters and parts.
Work boots. I don't see the council here.
We need hard hats.
Continue.
Bulletproof vest.
Continue.
7R,
Needs a special hat.
7R2A is an application for funds, with application for grant funds to support the development of the vacant Green Acres land into the Frederick Douglass Park.
Can this, I'm sorry, Council President, can this matter be deferred, this agenda item?
Okay. Defer. Second. Defer. Continue, Mr. Clerk.
7R3A is a professional services contract, the Second Amendment to extend the contract 06-2015 PS at no additional cost to conduct a comprehensive stormwater utility feasibility study for the city of Newark.
Continue. No questions.
7R3B is a grant agreement. This is an amended resolution to accept an additional $1.8 million in funding for the Bergen Street pedestrian safety corridor improvements.
Sponsor.
Second. Second by Councilman Osborne. Continue.
My mistake, my error. I have a request from the engineering department to defer action at this time. There's some issue with the language that they want to correct.
703B?
Yeah.
It's 3B, yes.
Defer.
So we'll be deferring action to the meeting on the 20th.
Continue.
7R4A is a sale of bonds and notes.
Continue.
4B is a similar resolution, bonds and notes.
All right. Continue, Mr. Clerk.
5A is planning, research, and evaluation services relative to the city's fiscal year 17 supporting male survivors of violence demonstration project.
Okay. Continue.
The next four resolutions are contracts with subrecipients for emergency shelter services. 5B is the Urban League of Essex County. C is the YMCA. D is the Access Family Services, Inc., and E is the United Community Corporation. We will discuss 6A and B with Corporation Counsel in executive session. 7R6C is a professional services contract for bond counsel services.
Okay.
7R8A are various expressions of profound sorrow and regret. 8B are various recognizing and commending resolutions. 8C is an appointment to the Board of Adjustment. 9A is an application and acceptance of grant funds to aid in the effort to increase and maintain the number of trained frontline firefighters available to the city.
Continue, Mr. Clerk.
9B is an acceptance of a donation from Google.
That's good. Continue.
7R12A is a bid contract for Phase 1A of sewer cleaning and rehabilitation contract.
Okay.
Mr. President, if I
Yes.
may go back to
Councilman
9A.
9A.
That's the safer grant that we have had I have had some questions in the past regarding the hiring of new firefighters when the firefighters that are entitled to retirement are not exercising the right to retire. We may be increasing the exposure of the city in terms of salaries coming after the grant had expired. I just want to see how we are doing in terms of the chart of organization. Are we exceeding the number that we are supposed to have? What is happening with the people that are supposed to retire?
Good morning. My name is Richard Gale. I'm a deputy chief with the Fire Division. Good question, Councilman. We have been successful with maintaining our table of organization and maintaining our budgeted head count properly with retirements and through attrition. We've been successful with this program for a long time, foreseeing the rate of attrition in the future, and currently we have 2 classes that are now eligible for retirement. They're rather large classes, and we do expect to see quite a bit of retirement in the next couple of years.
Thank you.
So we should be on point.
Okay, okay. I just want to, let's say, to make sure that we are not bloating the budget, because we are going to get a grant for 3 years. After the 3 years, we are supposed to put in the money for the recruits. We don't want to have to terminate them once they are in the department for 3 years.
Absolutely. We definitely want to get into that position.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Excellent. Continue, Mr. Clerk.
On Communications, 8A is an ordinance of amending Title 10, Finance and Taxation, by adding and establishing Chapter 31 entitled Labor Peace Agreements with hotels where the city has a financial interest.
It's Councilman Ramos.
That's not mine.
Is that yours? Okay.
Is that yours?
Councilman Osborne.
I don't know. Who's that?
Huh? Who's drafting this?
Councilman Osborne.
That's yours. Councilman Osborne. All right.
It's on Communications, so we have an opportunity to take a look at it.
All right.
8B is an ordinance to amend and supplement Title 18.
Yes, Councilman Gonzalez.
Just say, this here says the labor peace agreement for hotels where the city has a financial interest. What is a financial interest? Let's say an investment that the city has, or are they paying taxes to the city? What is the definition of financial interest when it comes to applying this?
Yeah, again, this came out of one of the council's office, so.
I would like to have something clarified.
Yeah, me
as to
too.
what the financial interest is. Who does this apply?
Councilman, there is a copy of the ordinance in your folder.
I'll take a look. I just got it.
Continue, Mr. Clerk.
And we will endeavor to get an answer for you before tomorrow's meeting. 8B is an ordinance to amend and supplement Title 18, Chapter 5, Security, Article 1, Housing Guards, 18:5-1.1, Armed Security Guards requirement. This would add a new section, 18:5-1.1C, petition to reduce or increase the hours of armed security guards for public or private housing with 50 or more housing units, and amend 18:5-1.5 to require surveillance cameras from near entrances and exits of said park buildings.
Mr. President, could I just mention that I had worked on drafting an ordinance. You know, I had drafted the original security guard ordinance for 100 units or more, and at one point I had attempted to revise that to add a provision that would enable us to impose, special conditions for those buildings that have, history of security issues and violence. And then at some point, there was an amendment offered by Councilwoman MacGyver related to those buildings between 50 and 100 units. And I had agreed to withdraw my proposed amendment until an ordinance was developed that specifically spoke to those buildings between 50 and 100 units. So it would be a separate ordinance related to the smaller apartment buildings, because my concern is that if we start imposing security requirements on those apartment buildings between 50 and 100 units on a unilateral basis, they're going to come to the Rent Control Board to try to get a major new improvement increase. And those increases will then be passed on to the tenants of those property owners. And the Rent Control Board, a lot of times, is more than willing to pass on those increases. So I believe that there still should be a provision that allows us to impose security requirements on an as-needed basis on those smaller apartment buildings between 50 and 100, and there should be an ordinance drafted to that fact. But I would still ask that those apartment buildings over 100 units be treated separately, because there was a previous ordinance. I agreed to withdraw it until this whole issue of those smaller buildings between 50 and 100 were dealt with in a separate ordinance, and I haven't had the opportunity to look at this, and no one's met with me regarding the proposed security amendment. And again, my concern is with the 50 and 100. If you start imposing straight across requirements, these property owners are going to go to rent control, and they're not only going to go to rent control, but they're going to apply for increases, which will then be passed on to the property owners, to the tenants in those buildings, and that's something we have to be aware of.
Council
But
President.
doesn't mean we can't impose requirements if you do have problematic buildings.
Councilwoman McIver.
Council President, so Councilman Ramos, thank you for those comments. Originally, yes, I did come and meet because walking into the council, there was a amendment already on the floor regarding security. However, my concern is buildings 50 to 100, which I have a ton in my ward. I'm sure in many wards there are a lot, but we have a severe issue in the Central Ward with units 50 to 100 who do not have security, but people are scared to come out their house every day. After hosting 75 community meetings since July, this has been a #1 concern of the residents of the Central Ward, and I'm sure in other wards as well, because there's no enforcement for units 50 to 100. On January 3rd, I sent out the ordinance as well as a memo to all council members directly to their office for you guys to take a look at and to follow up with me if you had any concerns or such. In one of our meetings, you did bring up the idea about the rent control board and them coming to want to increase rent for this matter. However, I did meet with rent control, and after carefully meeting with them, this doesn't seem to be an area where people can automatically come and get granted rent increases for this ordinance. So I would like to definitely respectfully move this ordinance along because I've been working on this since July. I do remember you meeting with some residents and, withdrawing your amendment. I didn't know the details of why that would happen or whatever the case might be because my office didn't sit in on that meeting with the residents. But we since then have met with those residents as well. And some of the language in this new ordinance as well addresses separate dwellings. In some of my ward, we may have the 2 buildings like literally a couple of inches away from one another. However, each building has over 100 units, and there's only one security guard manning both buildings. So running across from building to building, people are locked out, can't get in, people are entering the building. It has been a high concern, and literally people have called my office every day. I have 2 establishments actually like that in the Central Ward, and this addresses that matter as well. So it has definitely been a ongoing complaint of the people of the Central Ward and many of my senior buildings. Sometimes developers come into our city and they develop literally 98 apartments on purpose because they do not want to get security, and we cannot allow that. We have to ask people who are coming here, developing, who are collecting rent inside of our city from our residents to secure our residents. They have to help us. Newark Police cannot do everything, and we must put the ownership on the people who are coming here and doing business in our community. So at the end of the day, this is not for free. They're getting rent already, and it's not cheap rent in many cases, as we know. And so we definitely need this ordinance to secure these buildings because people should not be scared to come out of their house or be scared that someone's going to break into their apartment and their kids can't come outside. We just have severe issues, and people are finding ways to come around our ordinance, which I'm sure they'll do with this one as well in some way, somehow. However, they are finding ways to get around our current ordinance by making developments that are less than 100, literally at the threshold, so they don't have to have security.
Mr. President, I'm really not aware of many buildings that have come in for approval that have received a CO for 98 units to get around the security ordinance. But I fully support what you're saying. If you're having an issue with buildings between 50 and 100 units, then there should be an ordinance written that affects those buildings between 50 and 100 units. What this ordinance does, it changes the entire security ordinance, even for those buildings over 100 units. And I would respectfully ask through your chair and the clerk that Elmer and Ron work on an amendment specifically for those units between 50 and 100 units to incorporate some of the concerns that the councilwoman has related to those smaller apartment buildings. And I would ask through your chair and the clerk an opinion in writing from the Rent Control Board as to whether or not additional security costs are not subject to petitions for surcharges that can be passed on to the residents if approved by the Rent Control Board.
Yes, Elmer.
Amended ordinance that we prepared at your direction gave a mechanism in buildings 100 or more to increase security from the 8 hours to a second 8 hours, and also to have surveillance.
And my issue is, Council President and the clerk, I worked on this for a long time.
Yes.
And for me not to be given the opportunity or the courtesy to look at this and to see it show up on an agenda, and you worked on this with me with Ron.
We did.
So, it kind of surprises me. That's all I'm going to say. So I'm going to take a look at it. But again, my position, the reason I withdrew it originally is that I thought the push for the 50 to 100 units was taken away from what I wanted to accomplish. We heard previously from mostly seniors and residents who were in some of these really large buildings that having one guard for 24 hours a day wasn't enough, right? And then we have these really large buildings that have a common entrance, but each building has over 100 units. We recognize that 24 hours of one armed guard is not enough. So that was the intent of my amendment. Then when we brought in these smaller buildings between 50 and 100, and I start hearing from residents and some of the property owners saying, look, we're going to go to rent control if you impose a requirement for us to have 24-hour security in a building with 50 or 60 units. I got concerned and I agreed to pull my amendment until there was a separate ordinance drafted for these smaller buildings.
Well, that sounds like a reasonable proposal, to have a separate ordinance for the 50 to 100 and to have the more stringent security requirements for the 100 plus. And there were also in there abilities for businesses. You will recall, Councilman Ramos, you indicated in your ward there were some reasonably large buildings that had no history of any problems. And the residents there really weren't looking for armed security.
I have senior buildings. I'm on Prospect with 150, 200, 300 units, and the seniors have made it very clear that they do not want to see an armed guard. They want to see a 24-hour security person or doorman, but they get very intimidated when they see someone in their property with a weapon. And we should have outlets for those buildings to petition
Well, there
to
was a
relax some of the
provision to
conditions.
opt out with certain signatures.
And that was part of my intent as well.
Thank you.
Right. Okay, let's continue.
8C.
Yeah, Councilman.
Mr. President, can we go back to Communications 8A? If you look in the backup information related to the hotels where the city has a financial interest, you look on the backup information, and it says that the definition of a city is Bayonne.
The city of Bayonne.
The city of Bayonne.
They must have got that.
Unless we moved overnight, and I'm not aware of.
We merged.
Which page?
We merged?
Consolidated.
It's news to me.
Continue, Mr. Clerk.
And I think part of what we need to do with this week.
What's the outcome of that?
Yeah, we had sponsored legislation related to hotel workers and making sure that there was some kind of worker protection piece in place, because we recognize that some of these hotels are sold, and then the individuals that are employed there could be at risk of being immediately terminated once that transaction happens. So thanks to this body, we were able to adopt some legislation that gave those workers an opportunity to transition to the new ownership and not, get affected by that transition immediately. So, I just want to see also through your chair and the clerk, how this coincides with that, if it does coincide at all. I believe what this is trying to accomplish, just glancing at it, is to give those workers who happen to be in hotels throughout the city, you know, an opportunity to organize. And the financial interest
Not the
would
city of
probably
Bayonne.
be, no, not Bayonne, would probably be that the city issues some kind of abatement or some other subsidy or incentive for the construction of this hotel.
It says here also that simply because they pay taxes to the city. It says, the city of Newark has a financial and proprietary interest in hotel operations which lease property from the city or are financed with the city assistance when these operations base their payments to the city in part on the revenue they generate. So every hotel in the city of Newark makes a payment to the city based on the revenue they generate. So this is going to apply to every hotel in the city of Newark. I don't know if that was the intention of the legislation, or is it based only on hotels that are getting tax abatements or any benefit from the city? Because simply because you impose me a tax doesn't mean that I should have the obligation to pay or to have this agreement.
It's all related to the hotels in Bayonne.
Yeah, well, that's true. It's, the city means the city of Bayonne and all city-related agencies, so.
That's another county.
So that's in Hudson County, so it doesn't apply to us.
All right, Mr. Clerk, I was going to say.
HC would designate Sussex Avenue and Newark Street as a multi-way stop intersection.
Sponsor.
Second. Continue, Mr. Clerk.
Excuse me.
It's okay.
D would expand the limitation on power of to compromise, settle, adjust, or any rights, claims, or demands on or causes of action in favor or against the city of Newark in the amount not to exceed $40,000 without the approval of the municipal council. This is for the corporation council.
Right. Okay.
So I saw, Mr. President, I saw
Yes,
that at
Councilor
one
Gonzalez.
point in time, it was, I believe, $9,000, the limit. Inflation has its effects, and I believe inflation does have its effects, and I believe that, say, what they're asking is reasonable. However, this will take all the settlements that we approve here out of this chamber because they could be approved by the Corporation Council without coming to us, up to $40,000. I don't know if that's the will of this body at this time.
Yeah, Mr. Clerk, I mean, Mr. President, where did this number come from? Is this something that's common right now with municipalities, this threshold? You know, why the 40,000?
Eric Pennington, Business Administrator. The Corporation Council is probably better than I to address this. However, I have spoken to him. The $40,000 number comes from our ability now to raise the threshold for bids because we have a QPA, and the Corporation Council believed that it would be appropriate for him to have equal authority to enter into settlements. I agree. I think that many of the settlement agreements that we have that are under $40,000 don't necessarily require the deliberation of the municipal council. Again, this is up to you to make a determination on. We have a competent staff who needs to negotiate on some things, and some of the negotiations require that the settlement be entered into immediately. It needs to be able to have the authority to have it so that we don't miss out on an opportunity to resolve matters that are less significant than, obviously, those are more than $40,000 that will require the council's deliberation.
Yeah, I would just add, Mr. President, that the threshold that's allowed for a qualified purchasing agent, you know, that this individual has to go through extensive training, certification, and it's still basically that raising of that threshold enables a purchasing agent to solicit services without necessarily having to go out to public bid. I think what you're looking to accomplish here is something a little bit different, where there may be settlements that are made under a specific amount of money that don't necessarily have to come to this council for approval. So I think you're talking, apples and oranges. Purchasing agents authorized by law, if he or she is a qualified purchasing agent, to engage vendors under that threshold without necessarily having a bid process. But those contracts, in most cases, still have to go to the legislative body for approval.
Good morning, Kenyatta Store, City of Newark Corporation Counsel. So I was watching some of the questions on the TV while I was working on some items in the office. So as far as the $40,000 number, Councilman, the idea is to make it similar to the purchasing department, whereas the purchasing department, Jerome Wakefield has training and, a wealth of knowledge, and he understands that there are certain contracts that fall into a number that, the council and the mayor has asked that he have the authority to go forward without going through the tedious process of, putting it through Legistar and trying to get things done. Unfortunately, we are in a situation in law department where we have matters that are coming to the calendar, of course, but it takes a long time. We have a huge backlog on matters that just go back from years, and judges are giving us a hard time about the time it takes to go through the process. I try my best to use my discretion as far as bringing a load of matters to the council in reference to trying to get things settled. I like to think that the council has appreciated the fact that we take the time to go through the process of making sure that we're doing the best we can to resolve matters. And unfortunately, we just put ourselves in a space where, I don't want to say unfortunately, but we put ourselves in a space where there are matters that are important to the city, but I don't think that $40,000, and not to say that it's a small amount of money, but I don't think that $40,000 is an amount of money that that the council should be worried about as far as the opportunity for us to resolve matters faster. Of course, there are fees that come with some of these cases that we have. Judges are giving our attorneys a hard time, and I know that in the back of the minds of these judges, it has an impact on how they treat our other cases as well. I mean, just to be honest, they have a backlog of a number of cases, workers' comp cases. In smaller cases, we have a number of small accident cases and things of that nature, slip and fall cases and things of that nature. Whereas, I think it'll help the productivity of what we're doing upstairs. The other thing is, you have, and I know this may sound a little odd, but you have people who are, slip and falls and accidents that are not as serious, and they don't really like their business. It's somewhat embarrassing when you read or somebody's hearing and there's people in their family come up to them and say, "Oh, I heard you're about to get a lot of money," right? And in all actuality, it's not a lot of money where it comes to $40,000. But again, I just think that with the backlog in courts, with helping our outside counsel and the people here resolve matters. And I got to tell you, one of the things that the council does not know is that we also collect money. We collect funds in my department in reference to, when people have to pay us. And there are small amounts of money that, again, go through and ends up coming through the budget. So, again, I think my people are doing a good job, but I think that we can do a lot better and work very, very faster if we're able to resolve some of the smaller matters, which are at $40,000 or less.
President, if I may
Councilman
just,
Gonzalez and Councilman Ramos.
we have a history of not paying our providers. Why don't we have the same ability of paying, let's say, less than $40,000 directly to the providers? Because that's something that we have. I have been here for 13 years, almost 13 years, and every meeting, I mentioned something about us not paying our providers and our providers not wanting to do business with the city of Newark because we don't pay them on time. Why don't we do the same with the accounts payable? Let's say authorize them to pay the providers $40,000 and they don't have to come through us for approval.
I mean, Councilman, I got to tell you, as you were saying it, before I came to the city as a corporation counsel, I represented the city with my firm, and I remember one of the issues that we had, and it's not just Newark, it's other municipalities. It takes a long time, and most small law firms can't wait 2 or 3 months to get paid. I mean, unfortunately, that's, payroll, and I'm sure Mr. Pennington can agree. I'm sure there are other businesses that fall into the same category that, unfortunately, just having a hard time trying to do the best they can while representing or doing the work for Newark, but also trying to do the best they can by keeping their overhead and paying their bills and paying their staff. I wouldn't mind at all doing some research on, the proposal that the councilman has made. I'm sure Mr. Pennington would agree if you all want us to do the research on it.
It's a big corporation usually have a delegation of authority. And that delegation of authority allows, let's say, someone that is the vice president to approve invoices up to, let's say, 500,000. The president approve everything over 500,000. If you are, let's say, a manager, then you approve up to 200,000. So we should have a delegation of authority somewhere that allows for the expedient payment of the invoices coming to the city. I don't know if, let's say, that's something that is allowed in government, but it's something that we should explore because a lot of small businesses are financing the city of Newark, and this is something that shouldn't happen. They say, the other day I contacted you because there was someone that is owed $100-something thousand. This guy has to pay the salaries of their employees. So why is it that we cannot do the same for them, that we are, let's say, entitling you to do with, let's say, settlements?
Sure. We'll definitely look into it. I think it's a great idea. I know that it would definitely increase our inner city presence as far as people willing to do work for the city. I know there's a number of businesses that would love to do work for the city, but just afraid that they can't hold on to their day-to-day and also wait for the time period to get paid.
Mr. President?
Yes, Councilman Ramos.
Could the Corp Council or the BA give us some examples of what other towns use as their threshold? Comparable city in New Jersey, obviously, is Jersey City, but I'm just curious at 5 municipalities around the state, what's the authority that they give their Corp Council as far as their negotiating threshold?
Sure, we can get that to you. We may be able to get that before the end of the meeting. I don't know how much.
This is early. It's on communications. It's going to take some time to pass, so I would suggest you get it to us as soon as you can.
I can guarantee you that Newark does not have the highest threshold.
And that would be helpful for me.
Yes,
all right.
we can get that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Continue, Mr.
Mr. President, I'd like to add to this discussion that this ordinance would also assist in reducing the added starters to the council, because often settlements are forced on the agenda because the city has come to a settlement with the complainant just prior to a trial, and so they're trying to get the settlement done before they have to go to trial, or there's a judge that is waiting for the city to approve something. So this forces the law department to push for an added starter, and this will help to reduce that considerably.
Mr. President.
Yeah, Councilman Gonzalez.
Yes, that's, I believe, is a true statement. My concern is with the revenue side of the settlement, that, let's say, simply because we want to receive the money, we might be settling for less than we are entitled to receive, and that's a concern that let's say that I have. But other than that, if we have, let's say, capable representation, I believe that that shouldn't be a concern.
Councilman Gonzalez, Eric Pennington again. No ordinance should ever be approved or disapproved because of one individual, but I can tell you, as long as Avian Benjamin is in the Corporation Council's office,
yes,
every nickel that comes out or goes into the coffers will be vetted as appropriately as it should be.
I second that.
There's no question about it. So hopefully, when she moves on, when she moves up, wherever she goes, she will pass off that tenacious advocacy on behalf of the city to somebody else. I have witnessed firsthand the manner in which she deals with the fisc of the city of Newark. I'd also like to say, while I'm up here, that is to the council's credit that you have selected a clerk who is, I think, very astute, very on top of issues, and has probably advocated for the approval of this ordinance better than either I or Kenyatta Stewart. So to our fantastic clerk that you have selected,
they're along now.
We defer to him.
You're running. I know Valentine's on the way, you know.
Excuse me, are you running for office?
No, not today, Councilman.
He doesn't have a vote, though.
Oh, no. He's a 10th member. He's a 10th member.
Thank you, Mr. B.A. We have discussed all of the appointments. Are there any questions on the bingo or raffle license?
No, bingo.
As you can see, there are only 6 speakers.
What happened?
Well, day meetings, normally there's a reduced list of speakers because people aren't able to get here.
Have you addressed
change of the threshold?
Yes. Have you addressed the registration deadline issue for the agenda?
Yes, we did that at the last meeting, and we have implemented that deadline, which is also part of the reason for this reduction here, because we're now doing it on the Friday as opposed to the Monday. So there will be no added speakers going forward.
You did a good job, Mr. Clerk.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Before we go into executive
Good day
session,
for the clerk.
I'd like to do the public speaking portion of this meeting. This is a 3-minute period in which speakers will be given, this is a 30-minute period in which speakers will be given 3 minutes to speak. When you begin speaking, you will see a small timing device on the podium in front of you, which will begin counting down your time when you start speaking. When you reach the 2-minute mark, the yellow light will illuminate, indicating that you have 1 minute remaining for summation. When you reach the 3rd minute, the red light will illuminate, and there will be an audible sound indicating that your time has expired. Please look forward, speak into the microphone. We are recording these proceedings, and if you turn away, we may miss part of your statement. Is there anyone present that wishes to speak at this time?
Someone appearing?
Salters.
Okay.
Good morning, Deborah Salter, City of Newark. I want to address first this freedom for the Corporation Council to make decisions, $40,000 or less. The way this city is set up, everything needs to be known by everybody and approved, because I don't want something to come down the line later and the council's like, oh, we didn't know about that. You know, so this way everybody's on the same page. Because of all the controversy that Newark goes through with missing money and this is over here and that's over there, this way, everything is approved, everybody's on the same page, everybody knows what's going on. Now, as far as speeding up the process, I believe that's something that can be done by the council. It's something that always goes on. I actually interviewed with a company recently who did some work for the city and still were saying that they had not been paid, and this is some time ago. So I don't know what you all need to do to put standards in place to make the process faster, so that people can get paid, so that they can keep moving forward their business. The other issue is, because the BA said that we may not have the higher threshold when you look at other municipalities, but it doesn't really matter what other municipalities' threshold is. For us, the City of Newark, it is important, again, that we are all on the same page when it comes to dollars and cents, okay? The other thing, Amador brought up again, Councilman Amador brought up again about the homeless coalition and his concerns about no one being on the board from the East Ward. He keeps saying that and no one is acknowledging it. And you have those on the ground who are doing the work. I'm one of those from the East Ward. But again, we keep bringing these things to you all, and you all are not acknowledging his concerns, yet he gets berated for the very thing that he's concerned about. The other issue, the lead abatement. My question is, why do the citizens have to pay anything to have the work done? I mean, we have paid enough money into this city for the lead abatement to be done without us putting more money into it. So the grants that are done, the money that's already there, the money that's already been allocated, in fact, we should receive a rebate for the water that we paid for already, and the reduction of the water bill going forward until this mess is resolved. I mean, it's only right that the citizens be acknowledged for what they've already paid into the system. Also, the water, I think those are the only issues I have right now. But yes, I would say take into concern what's been already put before you about this water that's going on. Also, the purchasing of the Shani Baraka Center. I want to know if there was an appraisal done, an audit done, and where the funds are coming from to purchase this property, because it is not really worth what it's being sold for.
Councilman James?
Okay, in reference to the lead service lines are owned by the homeowner. They're not owned by the city. Though the city is taking the effort through the Department of Environmental Protection, through the mayor's efforts to get funding to assist the homeowners. Normally, as stated previously, it would cost $6,000 to $8,000 for the homeowner to do it on their own. But the city is greatly reducing that to a rate of up to $1,000, which will be in installment payments meted out over the course of their water bills. So the city is going to be above and beyond what other municipalities may have done, but that lead service line is a homeowner's responsibility.
Okay. Any other speakers?
Mr. President, for the record, I have submitted a name of a resident of the East Ward to the Homeless Commission about 2 weeks ago. I haven't received an answer yet. So, in the meantime, we have business that are closed around Peter Francisco Park because of the problem on Saturdays and Sundays.
Mr. President, too, before we go to executive, I would ask through your chair and the clerk that we have an opportunity to have a conversation with the whoever the appropriate representatives are from the Newark Municipal Court. You know, last week I had an opportunity to tour one of my small business corridors with the captain of our precinct, and the biggest issue we're having there is a lot of quality of life problems, you know, a lot of panhandling. And just in conversation with some of our police personnel, you know, many of these individuals have been given summonses, and apparently they're dismissed, you know, at a really high ratio when they come over to Newark Municipal Court. So, you know, our police department has little leverage in handling some of these issues because it's the same characters who are out there, you know, in these areas, you know, panhandling and affecting, you know, our residents' quality of life. But, you know, the courts have to work with us to help address some of these issues. And apparently, you know, a 90% ratio of dismissal based on the response I got back from some of the police personnel I was with. So I'd like through your chair and the clerk and the BA for us to have an opportunity to bring in, whether it's the presiding judge, the prosecutor, you know, whoever it is on the court side, to talk to us about this. And I'd invite Director Ambrose also to the meeting, because I'm sure that's an issue that he has to deal with as well.
Mr. Clerk, can you, as a note, as an invitation?
Yes, sir.
To all parties?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
One more thing, since before we go into executive session, since we changed the laws, the handicap laws, and it takes a while before the law is implemented, the new changes are implemented, I would suggest that because of the fact that the regular letters for renewal have been sent out already, I would suggest we have a meeting as quickly as possible with traffic and signals for a follow-up letter to go out to the changes that on the new law. We sent out, my office sent out about 450 letters to folks who have handicap signs, and some of them came back and they're going to be removed because they don't live there. But the ones that have already sent information for renewal, they were surprised that the changes are coming, and they have to resubmit whatever changes are taking place. So what I would suggest is immediately before the deadline of March 1st, immediately we have a meeting with traffic and signals, and we kind of go over the entire change that has taken place recently. So we're all on the same page.
Right. Thank you. There's another speaker.
Good morning, Councilman. My name is Sybil Boast. I am with the Port Authority of New York, New Jersey, and I am the Community Outreach Specialist. With me today, I have our Senior Program Manager, Michael DaCosta, and he's going to tell you a little bit about the Terminal 1 redevelopment program.
Okay.
Good morning. The Port Authority of New York and New Jersey has begun construction on a $2.7 billion program for the modernization and redevelopment of Newark International Airport to position the airport to meet the needs of the 21st century. The new Terminal 1 will replace the existing Terminal A out at Newark Airport, which was open to the public in 1973 and designed to accommodate 9 million annual passengers. In 2017, that existing facility accommodated over 11.3 million annual passengers. The new Terminal 1, in its first full year of operation in 2022, will accommodate 13.6 million annual passengers and has the expansion capability to accommodate 19.6 million annual passengers. The redevelopment program, which includes 4 major components, the new Terminal A facility, the airfield paving and utilities, a new roadway network to serve the public, and a parking facility. The Terminal 1 project is currently the largest design-build contract in New Jersey's history. And the design-build format expedites and streamlines the process between design and construction and allows for one singular contract to do both. Tudor Perini Parsons joint venture is the holder of that contract. And with that, I will turn it back over to Sybil to kind of explain the MWB efforts that are ongoing.
If I may interrupt, we would like to have a presentation. I mean, this is a 3-minute hearing. We would like you to come back with some plans, let us see them. I mean, it would be more fitting for us to see what you're doing so that we can partner with the Port Authority, because you're our partner. And again, it would be better for this body if you would come before us, and we will invite you, and you can bring and show us from the labor aspect of who's building, who are the partners, and if we could get all these information, what it's going to look like, it would be a better presentation, because this is a hearing of citizens, which this should have been a presentation to this governing body. And we appreciate what you have done coming before this body, but we need some more time to look at this and ask some questions, and you give us more information of what occurs. And I know on the administration side, the administration would appreciate that too. I don't want to speak for the administration, but I think on behalf of this body, we would like to have some kind of presentation.
Council President?
President.
Yes, Councilwoman.
Oh, okay. I just wanted to say I agree with Council President Quintana regarding a better presentation. But I also want to say thank you, Sybil. Thank you to the entire team for hosting last week's local contractor informational session on how local contractors from the city of Newark can be involved in the project. I had asked my contact from my office who had been working with you about hosting another fair as well, so that we can try to recruit more local vendors to work on the project, which I think is extremely important to all of us here. So I just want to thank you for already reaching out, doing that work, and just ask that you guys hold another one as well, so we can get more local contractors to work on the project. But thank you so much for the work that you guys have already been doing.
Councilman Amador and then Councilman Osborne.
Well, I don't want to sound frustrated, but in a sense, because of the fact that the airport primarily is located in the city of Newark, when the Port Authority decides to invest $2 billion in building or improving its location, they always seem to think inside of a box. The accessibility to the airport is extremely important, not only to the airport, but also to the city of Newark. And I haven't seen from the Port Authority any intention, for example, to resolve the problem that we have with South Street, with Route 22, with the flooding situation. Those are 2 main access roads to the airport. And with an investment of over $2 billion, and because it's a public agency, I'm sure that they would be very willing to address that issue. Every time we have rain in the city of Newark, it's impossible to go from one end of the city to the airport because it's flooded, not only to the residents of the area, but also to those who want to access the airport through South Street, for example, or Route 22. So I don't know if you're the right people to give the message to, but if you think a little bit about it, go back and tell those who are responsible for making that decision that they should contribute something to resolve this problem once for all.
Yeah, 'cause I was out of the room when you came to the podium, so I didn't get to know who you are. Are you with Port Authority or with the contractors? Is anyone?
I'm with the Port Authority, as Sybil had mentioned. My
Is anybody here from, Perini?
Greeny? No.
My question is this size project, usually when big projects like that go on in the city of Newark affiliated with the city of Newark, we have an opportunity to get some of our residents to some of the various trades. I haven't heard anything from the airport about this. I know the job is in full swing right now as far as concrete and all that stuff go.
Well, it's wonderful that you bring that up, and that's the reason why, which brought us to this meeting today. So I am the outreach specialist. Currently, we are recruiting minority, women, disadvantaged, small, and local, most importantly, local businesses to work on the construction phase of the program. So that's
Contractors, but that's a union project, right?
Well, yes, it is.
So-
However, if a firm is a non-union, they can actually sign an agreement and still work on the project.
Is the project labor agreement attached to the project?
Yes, there is.
Okay, just real quick, just to piggyback on Councilman Amador, the Haynes Street Bridge, I don't know whether it was done by the Port Authority or New Jersey Department of Transportation, but they only did the side of the bridge which faces the airport. When you go across the bridge, it is still unfurbished, it's filthy, and I think all of the major corridors leading to the airport should be upgraded. It's a small bridge. Yes, it goes across 1 and 9 and the turnpike, but it needs just as much effort, just as much rehabilitation as they spent on the circle that's on the other side of the bridge to be done. It looks horrible once you cross into Newark. And, it's just a small project, small task, which would definitely beautify the $2 billion project, which is happening on the other side of the bridge. We definitely need to be included and respected as a city, as a municipality, and the residents do, going out to see what's going on at the airport. We appreciate what you do on the ground, on the footprint of the airport, but all of the access roads also need to be given a fair look and rehabilitation. And I'll be giving you my information to follow up on that. Thank you.
Can you give us your card so we can, with the city clerk, give the city clerk, so we can coordinate a meeting, so the administration, and we could also have the mayor be a part of the question, in case he may have some questions too, through the administration. It would be, because we need a meeting of such that would last another 20, 30 minutes, because there may be some other questions. So we want to thank you for coming. And, Port Authority is very dear to me. My daughter works at the Port Authority, and she's a police officer. She took a test now. So again, I just wanted to really basically thank you for coming.
Okay.
What was that? My daughter doesn't work at Newark Airport. I'll tell you later. So again, thank you, and we look forward to seeing you, and bring your presentation. Let us see what, we've been a partner, and we're going to continue to partner in terms of our airport and our city.
Well, thank you very much. We also have some briefing books for you guys, if you would like them, and it's about the Terminal 1 redevelopment program. We will certainly follow up, and we will schedule a proper meeting.
Thank you so much.
The homework? Yes, well, yes, I will have flyers, yes, for you guys to distribute to your constituents. Please, 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 this is an opportunity, I would say, of a lifetime, and I just need your help to recruit these minority businesses.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Clerk, that continues the list of speakers. No one else?
No other speakers? Council of the whole to go into an executive session?
Roll call?
Yes.
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 Ladies and gentlemen, we are going into an executive session. Unless you are involved in the discussion that will follow, I ask that you please step out of the chamber.